And a very good afternoon, gentlemen. It's yet another episode of Real Talk, joined by me, Ibrahim Basal, Sales Executive at Fanaka Real Estate. I'm here with my colleague, Elizabeth. Introduce yourself to you
our
guys.
esteemed viewers. My name is Elizabeth.
Yes.
I'm a sales executive here at Fanaka Real Estate.
Yes, and as we've promised, the show will always, this whole show is for you, our viewers. We want to make sure that at the end of the day, the guys who are you, our esteemed viewer, who are trying to invest in a piece of land, today you will have the best of advice. So the whole show is about you. And as promised, we said we are going to bring experts on the show. And today we have been blessed with the presence of one, Mr. Lawrence Kashanja, an advocate for the High Court. Lawrence, take it away.
Thank you, Basal.
Yes.
My name is Lawrence Kashanja,
Yes.
an advocate of the High Court of Kenya and the proprietor of Kashanja, Mwangi and Company Advocates. Yeah, I do almost everything for Fanaka when it comes to their legal work. Yeah, and I'm proud to be here today.
Absolutely.
Yeah, to
And
answer any question that you may have.
Yes, karibu sana.
Yeah.
So I think I'll start from the top. Kashanja, as you've said, you're an expert
Yes.
in legal matters. Yes. So from the top, what is the one thing that you would advise anyone? Say, for instance, I have decided today that I want to buy a piece of land.
Yes.
What is the first advice you would give me, being the very first time that I'm trying to buy a piece of land? What is the best advice you would give to me?
The first advice that I would give you is that you need to go to that piece of land. Of course, the first step is looking
Okay.
for the property that you're interested in.
Okay.
Once you see it, you then go to site or you go to that piece of property. You look at it, see whether it fits what you're looking for. If it's residential for residential purposes, of course you know what you're looking for. So you just basically look at it and see whether it fits your needs.
Okay.
After seeing it, of course, you're going to request those people who are showing you to give you a copy of the title deed.
Okay.
And the purpose of looking for that, of them giving you that title deed, is so that you can do what we call a search at the lands office.
Okay.
The entire process is called due diligence.
Okay.
So you carry with you a copy of the title deed to the lands office
Okay.
to conduct a search.
Okay.
Once you conduct a search, now it will tell you whether the property, the people who are selling that piece of land are the real owners of that property.
Okay.
It is also going to show you the size, the dimensions of the plot in terms of hectares, and then it will also show you whether the land has any encumbrances. You should ask what an encumbrance is.
I am going to get to that.
Yeah.
I will definitely.
Whether it has any lien,
Okay.
whether it's charged.
Okay.
Yeah, so, and there are things that the search should have.
Okay.
Of course, it should have the stamp of the registrar and his signature, yeah, to show that it's valid,
Okay.
and a seal
Okay.
from the lands office.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
You've mentioned something to do with the title deed being a document. Just explain kidogo
It's a continuous process.
Okay.
But I want to take our viewers in steps.
Okay.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So, is there a difference between? I've also had encounters with clients who get like a certificate
Yes.
instead of maybe getting a title.
Yes.
Is there maybe a difference between a certificate and a title deed?
There are incidences
Yes.
where, like you're putting us through the importance of carrying out due diligence
Yes.
when you're buying land. There are incidences where customers come across, they want to buy land,
Yes.
and then at the end of the day they end up, wengine wanapatiwa certificates, wengine wako na title deeds. Can you probably put us through that process, the difference between a title deed and a certificate?
I would want to understand, because there are instances where we have something like a certificate of lease.
Okay.
There are instances when you're given a title deed.
Okay.
There are other companies that even give you what we call a share certificate.
Okay.
So maybe you can make me understand maybe what certificate you're talking about. Yeah.
I feel like what the question she's trying to ask is, sometimes there are people who are selling probably a piece of land, and instead of having the title deed, they tell you they have a certificate, because we've had instances where clients come and they tell you they've bought land in area A, B, C, D or X, and instead of getting a title deed, they were given a certificate of, I don't know how to call it.
Yeah,
of
a certificate.
show-
I get it, which does not come from the lands office.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, I can take that. Yeah. Number one, I would say that I wouldn't quite encourage someone to buy land only on the basis of a certificate.
Okay.
And the reason for this is that, of course, that certificate does not originate from the lands office. It's an internal thing, so they decide that they are going to give you a share certificate. Number one, you do not have any means of verifying that certificate other than maybe going to that company and doing a search.
Okay.
We have had cases where people have been there have been cases of double allocation when it comes to plots. You are given a certificate, another one is given a certificate. You see, that is one challenge. The other challenge, you might be given a certificate and maybe the property does not have you do not have a way of verifying that certificate from the lands office.
Okay.
You get it? So you might be given it's just like a piece of paper, in my opinion, which does not guarantee you any safety.
Okay.
So I would encourage buyers to at least avoid
By all means.
by all means getting themselves in such a situation, because there's no means of validating that certificate.
Okay.
A certificate, again, is not a commitment. It is not recognized by the lands office. So for me, I think that that's a problem that you're getting yourself into.
Wonderful.
But there are people anyway who take risks, but I would call it a risk.
So by
It's
the
a
end
risk.
of the day, the clients should not go for a transaction
Yeah.
that does not have a title.
Yeah,
deed
because
involved.
there's no guarantee in having a certificate. But if you have a lands office, you know, if you have a title deed has gone through various processes even before it is printed. Maybe the first owner was given that title deed. It has gone various steps. And at least even if you buy the survey map, you can see that certificate, that title number there, or even there's nothing wrong in having a certificate of lease, because a certificate of lease is a title document, only that it's for leaseholds.
Okay.
Yeah, you know,
So
they're
pieces of land
yeah.
are in two.
Yeah,
They are freehold.
freehold
And,
and leasehold.
okay.
Yeah, nowadays you will see some other titles reading a lease of even up to 999 years.
Okay.
But nowadays, the most regular ones are the 99 year lease.
Okay.
From that, we have this other one called a freehold title. A freehold title, meaning, you see, like just to take you back, if you look at a lease, you're given that land, but it's not permanently yours, because you're paying rent, number one, to the government. It's just the same way you pay your house. You pay some rent.
Aye.
You pay because it's not yours. You're given to stay there for a particular period of time. So in most cases, it's usually 99 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then can it be renewed?
Yeah, it can be renewed.
Okay.
Yeah, there's an application that you make to the lands office. Then, now let me explain now of course, the freehold title.
Okay.
It's freehold because you're given that land for free. And it's like it's yours till eternity.
Okay.
Or it's yours forever and evermore. Amen.
So
Yes.
in the event that, God forbid, the
Yes.
owner of this land passes on and the 99 years are over, so what is the procedure of the person who has inherited the land to contact a renewal for the lease?
Yeah, the procedure is the same. You have to go to court
Okay.
for succession proceedings.
Okay.
Because now that the remaining term will form part of the estate. We call it the residue term. It will form part of the estate of the deceased person.
Okay.
And now the administrators can even apply for its renewal.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's the same even when it comes to freehold. Once a person dies, the estate goes, the administrators of the estate usually move to court to get the letters of administration. once they are going, of course, to appoint, if there is a will, I'm going to take you a little bit deeper.
Okay.
We say that that person has died tested. If there's no will, we say that he has died intestate. So we have the issue of, now if a person died testate, we call that person an executor of the will.
Okay.
Because he's going to make sure that what was written in the will is followed. But then what is written in the will has to be like rubber stamped by a court of law.
Okay.
Because of issues of fairness, you see, and to show that there is no, a court usually takes the process through if there's no dispute.
Okay.
Yeah. So on the other hand, if you die intestate, the person who will manage your estate will be given powers to manage your estate by the court, will be called an administrator.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
But those administrators only administer for some times, because now that property does not belong to them. They're just given powers to manage the estate.
You've said
before it passes to the beneficiary.
Okay, nice.
So the beneficiaries are the people who are entitled to be now the next owners, or the next of we call them the heirs.
The A's.
Yeah, I don't know how we pronounce it in English.
Group of schools.
I understand you're from a group of school. Unfortunately, I'm not, but you're still trying.
Whichever the message is home.
Yeah,
so long as we get the message
Yes,
home,
yes.
then it's okay.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So does this still apply? Because now this was in regard to the leaseholds.
Yes.
Does this still apply to a title deed?
Yes,
where
yes.
The owner of the particular parcel of land
Yes.
has passed on,
Yes.
and there's the next of kin
Yes.
who is supposed to possess the land.
Yes.
Do they go still through the same procedure of succession?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Because of course, for example, if you want to deal with land, and that person, the owner of, or the person who is written in the title, passes on, you can't avoid the succession process. If you want to transfer that land, you see, the person who is supposed to sign that title is no longer there. So you have to go to court, so that the court is going to appoint someone to act on behalf of this person who is I want to avoid the word dead.
Who is deceased?
Yeah,
So
the
that's
person, the deceased person.
Again, group of
Yes,
schools.
Group of schools.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, so that person is now the one who can sign the titles.
Okay.
In case that person wants to do a transfer, or in case you want to charge that property, so that you change the name to the name of the administrators and then to the beneficiaries.
Great.
Yeah.
So let me take you back to maybe where we started this conversation. And we were saying, ladies and gentlemen, the idea is to make sure that at the end of the day, we are here to help you. This is advice to anyone who is trying to buy land, going into real estate and all that. You've mentioned from the beginning documents that are needed when someone is trying to buy land.
Yes.
What are some of these documents that I probably would want to see or get from the one who is selling?
I again want to take you back.
Okay.
I told you that the explanation is continuous. So once you get a search, then you can organize for a meeting, which will be between the buyer and the seller. Like in the case of Fanaka Real Estate, even when we give you a copy of the title to go and conduct that search at the lands office, we give you something we call a letter of offer.
Okay.
Right?
Yes.
That is what you give to the people who are buying from
us.
Fanaka.
Yes.
And so we give them a copy of the title, but they sign a letter of offer. That is a commitment that indeed we are interested in buying this parcel of land. So that letter of offer will give you time to go conduct your due diligence, align yourself
with maybe the finances part together.
Financially, and also organize. I can call it organize yourself. It's usually for 14. In other cases, you'll see other companies giving you 14 days. In ours, I think it's 7 days.
7 days, yes.
Yeah, 7 days, so that we allow you to go and conduct that search. Once now the results are out, you will come to the company, and now you'll enter into a legally binding contract, which is the agreement for sale, which will set out the terms and conditions of
Okay.
that sale.
Okay.
Again, for Fanaka, if you want, you can come with your own advocate to see whether the contract aligns itself with, of course, or you see your rights or your what do we call them? The terms also needs to look at both sides.
The buyer and
the side
seller.
of the buyer and the side of the seller.
Okay.
There's something, the agreement, for example, the one that Fanakas use is mostly in line with the Law Society conditions of sale.
Okay.
They are like the standard guidelines of how land is sold.
Okay.
So, but we as Fanaka, the company does not have a problem if any interested purchaser comes with an advocate.
Their own lawyer.
Yeah.
Okay.
This-
Which you can also advise is something that is good if they decide to
Yeah,
actually go
yeah,
that
it's
direction.
something that is good so that you be sure. Although many people also avoid lawyers because others don't even know where to get them.
That's true.
Yeah, for various reasons.
Okay.
The reasons they avoid lawyers. But when you have a search and now you agree, you've seen, again, I forgot to mention something. Even after conducting a search, it's important that you see that the company that is selling you that parcel of land or the individual shows you the original title deed.
Exactly.
Because
Okay.
we've had cases where, as an advocate now in my personal capacity, we've started transacting and maybe the title deed got lost. So
That
you see-
happens.
Yeah, that happens. So now the parties now start getting into issues of how you're going to apply for a new title because that one has gotten lost. And number one, it's a process that takes time. It's also a process that is quite expensive because you're going to spend some money. Yeah, so yeah, to avoid such a situation, it's good that you see that that person has a title. And
You
even
see
as
it.
a matter of practice,
You see it.
some of them
Okay.
usually leave the title document with their advocates
Okay.
for safe custody.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, due diligence is important, whether
Yeah.
you're buying from a company or you're buying from an individual.
Definitely,
Exactly.
definitely.
All right, guys, we have said that we created this platform so that you get advice from us, and we promise that we'll bring experts on the show to maybe dissect all these issues that you might have. So today we are here seated with the advocate for the High Court, Mr. Lawrence, and
Of the High Court.
of the High Court group of schools, eh?
Yeah.
Ah, wonderful. So we are here with Lawrence Gashanja and my lovely co-host Elizabeth. We are going for a short break. When we come back, we are going to talk about so many other issues. We're even going to take your questions. We're going to talk about all these things, and yeah, we're coming back after this short break. Wonderful. And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for tuning in. You can also share this link with your friends, your family. Let them know that we are here. We have created this platform, again, to make sure that at the end of the day, some of the fears that you have, we are going to address all these things, investing in land, so that at least investing in land is not such a hassle. And as such, we had promised that we're going to have experts on the show, and today, again, we are here with Lawrence Kashanja. You've said advocate of the High Court, not advocate for the High Court.
Yes.
What's the difference?
You're a bright student.
I know.
Of course, for and
I didn't
is-
eat school fees.
Yeah.
Group of schools, I didn't eat school
They have
fees.
different meanings.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Liz, you had a question for Gashanja.
Yeah, there's someone who is asking, what happens if a client needs the issue of title deeds? We've just discussed. So someone is asking, what happens if a client has gone through the process and everything, and the title is out, and they need someone to pick it on their behalf? Maybe they are not present, they are out of the country, our diaspora clients and everything. What happens?
It's possible to at least at the onset, if it's possible, you can just inform the company that you're not the one to pick the title.
Okay.
So you can sign a document, because I believe FANACA has email addresses and contacts of the person who, of course, is purchasing that property. So by way of email, that person can write. And it's
request,
good. Requesting
say
that someone
else
collects the title on their behalf.
Okay.
Then it is always good, because I believe that the sales executives have their contacts.
Yes.
Other than the email, it's always good to communicate on phone, and so that, of course, you you see, because someone, in my understanding,
Yes.
someone can steal or can use an email address of another person
Okay.
to write. So precautions should be well put, so that at least you talk to that person, and confirm that indeed they want the title deed to be written in, not to be written, but to be collected.
To be collected by this individual.
by
sales.
this individual,
Okay.
because I believe the sales executives usually have a personal connection, direct connection
client.
With the client.
with the client.
Wonderful. So, taking you back to the conversation that we were having before the break, you had mentioned something to do with due diligence. Doing a search.
Yes.
So many clients feel like it's very tedious. Is it something that I can do by myself? Say you're the seller. You've given me the title deed copy. You've told, as per request, is it possible for me to actually do the search as the buyer?
Definitely.
Okay. And what
Because,
is the process?
Yeah, of course, the land office is open to anyone,
Okay.
any citizen of Kenya, any non-citizen of Kenya. If you guys are selling leasehold titles, it's open. So you just need a copy of the title. There's a form that you fill in.
Okay.
Of course, nowadays, our president, our good president,
Yes.
Mr. Uhuru, Honorable,
Yes.
His Excellency.
Again, group of schools.
Yeah,
You
His
have to include that
Excellency.
honorable.
Yeah,
Yes.
His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta said that the searches will be conducted for free.
Okay.
So you don't have to
To pay.
pay
Okay.
for your title to be out. So
And what is the
once
duration?
you lodge the documents, you can wait for a week or two
Okay.
to get the title.
Okay.
Of course, it depends with the registry. Some are fast, of course, some are not very fast.
Okay.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
but we can give it a week or two.
Maybe I can just mention some of the comments from our clients
Yes.
who are watching online.
Yes.
There's Eva Mudei. She's saying very informative session today. Thank you, Mr. Wakili.
Yes.
Great show from Empress Nungari.
Okay.
She's saying it's a great show, and thank you so much, Wakili. I think we
Asante.
should be calling you here more often,
Yes.
so that we can
For sure.
get to
for
discuss these things which are very critical in the process of
Yeah.
buying land.
Sure. Yes.
Yeah.
So
Asante sana.
again, back to the initial question. I had asked, what are some of the documents that I need to request apart from the title deed? Say, for instance, I've gone to the land, I've done the part doing the search. What other documents? Because I see there's a question here. Someone is asking, Purity Mwangi is asking, is the letter of offer a legally binding document?
No, legalistically speaking, a letter of offer is not a binding document.
Okay.
Get it?
So I cannot sue you, or I
Although
cannot take you to court.
there are terms.
with
It can, you see, in law, we call it can be a persuasive, it can be used to persuade the court.
Okay.
But it's not as binding as an agreement for sale.
Talk
That's
to us
why
about.
it expires.
I think I
Yes.
wanted you to come to that part of
Yes.
the agreement now.
The sales agreement.
Yeah.
Yes.
So after, of course, after all the parties have agreed on everything, now parties will meet, but it's not necessary for them to meet. If they are represented by the advocates, of course the advocate for the person who is selling or the company that is selling is the one who drafts the agreement for sale.
Okay.
So it's drafted by, we call them the vendor, is the one who drafts, or the seller is the one, they either the seller or the advocates for the seller. So after that agreement is drafted, it is shared with the purchaser's advocates, or the purchaser is given to read.
Okay.
If they have things or proposals that they would want, they are given a chance to review the agreement. They say that we don't want this, we feel that this is not fair. So there's like a negotiation that comes into play to make all parties comfortable with everything that is in the agreement.
Okay.
So once they agree on everything, then there is now signing of the agreement. The agreement is signed. Of course, there is the deposit that is agreed. So the deposit is now the purchaser pays the deposit immediately after signing. So that now, so of course the agreement has very many things. It has the parties, it has the recital part, it has so many things. It has the properties that is being sold, the price. It has, of course, the completion date.
Timelines.
The completion date, when you're supposed to pay, or the duration in which you're supposed to pay.
Okay.
After that, it has the completion documents, and you asked a very important question on the documents. If I just take you back just a little bit, when you're buying, or when you have seen a property that you're interested in, you've conducted a search, I think it's also important that if it's a company that is, if it's an individual that is selling that land to you, or the individual is the seller, then you ask for a copy of his ID and maybe a copy of the PIN. Yeah.
And
then,
in the case of
in the case of a company, you ask for the certificate of incorporation, the PIN, the IDs of the director, and the KRA PIN of the director.
Okay.
Very important.
Very important.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then if it's a company, again, you can go further and conduct a search.
For now,
to
the company.
See, if it's Fanaka Real Estate Limited, you need to know who are the directors, so that you know who is that person who has been given who has been mandated or authorized to sign even the transfer or the agreement on behalf of the company.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So now this issue of sales agreement brings me to where the client now has completed, or the client, there's a certain duration that is put for the client to complete the payment. So what happens in the event that the period is over and they've not completed paying? Because of course now this in law now becomes breach of the contract.
Yes.
The client has not completed in time as per the contract. Now what happens in such a case?
So if you read the Law Society Conditions of Sale, and I want to tell our viewers today that the Law Society Conditions of Sale are not law in casting stone. They are just guidelines. They have provisions on how an agreement for sale should look like. But where the agreement is not consistent with what is in the Law Society Conditions of Sale, then the terms in the agreements are going to prevail. So what happens in case there is breach from the person who is purchasing, maybe you are unable to meet your contractual timelines, The first option, of course, will be, it's always good to have a negotiation, or
Okay.
you talk
Communicate.
you communicate and say that I am unable to finish paying because of this and this reason.
Okay.
Yeah. So the vendor has the discretion of listening to you
Okay.
or enforcing the terms of the
The
agreement.
agreement.
And how do you enforce the terms of
Of
the
the
agreement?
agreement.
You being the seller. Of course, you go back to the agreement, and in that agreement, there is the non-completion clause, which should be in all agreements for sale.
Okay.
That's why I say that it's important to have a lawyer guide you through.
Through all these processes.
Yeah. So, where there is non-completion, the vendor, on the part of the purchaser, the vendor is supposed to issue a 21 days notice.
The vendor
For,
now is
for,
the
for, this,
seller.
for the
Yeah.
case of people like me who went to group of schools,
Yes.
we would understand the vendor. But for my friends,
Yeah.
what do you mean by the vendor?
The seller.
The seller.
The person who is selling, or
Okay.
the company that is selling.
Okay.
Yeah. So the seller issues a 21 days notice, requesting you or requiring you to perform your part of
The
the
agreement.
contract or the agreement. So you're given 21 days. If you're unable to raise that amount within that 21 days, the seller will be at liberty to take back the piece, can even sell that parcel of land to some other person, and then they are going to refund you your money, but less the percentage that will be agreed. Of course, there will be a deduction. Yeah, say in some the Law Society conditions of sale talk about 10%, but you see it's contractual.
Yes.
So in other companies, you see
Different
some
percentages.
talking about 20%, and this 20% that is 10 or 20% or even 30% that is being deducted, it's deducted on the basis of on the purchase price.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's 20%
Of the purchase price.
price.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Or 10% or 30%.
Whatever percentage
whatever.
it is,
Yeah.
it varies from company to company or from the guys selling
Yeah.
the land.
According to what you agree.
The agreement.
Yeah.
Okay.
Of course.
So what I'm getting from this
Yes.
is that a sales agreement is a document that a client should go through again and again, and probably through the guidance of a lawyer,
Yes.
or even through the guidance of your sales agent,
Yes.
so that you can get to understand each and every clause and the
Yeah.
cost implications
Yes.
that can come with you defaulting.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's important for you to read a document before you put a signature of it on it,
Okay.
because you have to read, understand before you sign,
Okay.
because you have to understand what you're getting yourself into.
Yeah, true.
Because in case there's a dispute and then you go to court, of course the court is going to follow the terms of that agreement, unless maybe that there are some terms that the court might say they are exorbitant, or they have not bad and they can't have any standing in law.
But we should not assume, we should read the
Yeah.
agreement.
So it's always important to read the agreement or any other document
Okay.
before you sign, because once you sign, it becomes binding.
Legally
You can't,
binding.
yeah, binding. You can't get away from it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you very much, guys, for tuning in. We are trying to go through some of the questions. You can keep sending them on our YouTube channel. You can also go online on Facebook. I believe we are also on other social media platforms, Instagram. Go live, send in your question, and we are going to tackle all these questions today as promised. We are going to be bringing more experts on the show, and I am seeing guys asking, how can I there's more Wairimo Wanjiro, how can I own a plot if I don't have Kenyan citizenship?
Wow. That's a very interesting question.
Okay.
If you're not a Kenyan citizen, it's the constitution is very clear on it, because it usually states that if you're not a Kenyan citizen, you can only own a leasehold property
Okay.
for not more than 99 years.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can only own a leasehold.
You can only, so there's no way for a
Yeah.
foreigner to own a freehold parcel.
Yes, that is
Okay.
the general rule.
Okay.
Although if you have a company and maybe the Kenyan directors or the majority shareholders are Kenyan,
For the company now.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
Kenyans, it's also possible for you to own a property.
Okay.
Yes.
Now through the company.
Yeah,
Okay.
now through the company.
Okay.
There's another question here. If someone is asking what's about the land rates and the land rent and land rates. Maybe you can give us the difference between the two and
Yes.
how to go about it.
So for the, of course, we are going to start with the land rent because I talked about leasehold titles. If the title that you're purchasing appears to be leasehold or it is a lease for a certain number of years, you'll have to pay rent. And I gave a very important example
Yes.
of many people, of course, who are renting. There is the landlord and the tenant relationship. In this case, the landlord is the government of
Okay.
Kenya.
Kenya.
And you, whose name is written on that title document, a certificate of lease, are the tenant. So of course you have to pay rent. So just to clarify, it is only for leasehold titles because it's a lease.
Okay.
And when you're leasing something, that thing is not absolutely yours.
Yes.
You've taken it to pay something so that to use it for a certain period of time before you give it back to the owner.
Okay.
It's like being lent something,
Yes.
some money.
Okay.
That money is not yours because you have to give it back to the person who lent you.
Are there chances that
So, yeah,
Okay.
so that is, so you only pay rent when the title is a leasehold title. For freehold title, you do not pay rent. Yeah, you wanted to ask something?
are there chances that after the 99 years the lease can fail to be renewed? The land.
No, you see, but it's an application. You see, an application can be accepted or rejected. But in most cases, they usually go through.
Okay.
Yeah, unless maybe there's a reason for you being denied that lease.
Right. In the
But
part
it's
of
almost automatic.
in the part of the due diligence, as previously you had mentioned, that it's important to do to make sure to verify that the title is in the person who is selling, in the name of the person who is selling that piece of land. Yes, because you had said the reason for this is you want to know if this piece of land has you mentioned something called I think charge
Yes.
and other things.
They are called
Encumbrances.
Encumbrances.
Yeah.
And
Group of schools again.
Group
Eh?
of schools,
Okay.
yes. Yeah.
Kindly take us through that bit.
So an encumbrance is like a burden
Okay.
on that particular title. You see, for example, if there's for example, you've taken a loan using your title as a security, and you have not cleared that loan, of course that title will, and that interest, we call it an interest in land. Maybe the bank has an interest. You see, the title is yours, but someone has a claim against the title.
Okay.
You see, that is called it's like the title is burdened. That is called an encumbrance.
Okay.
Because there's the burden of that money you took against your title. So there are many encumbrances. There's something like we can call a charge. There might even be something like you borrowed money using the title. That is an encumbrance. There was a written document. Although in most cases those encumbrances are usually registered. If you look and how you even before doing a search, like for example in the cases of a charge,
Okay.
just to explain, when you take a loan from the bank using the title as the security, the title is left with the bank.
Okay.
But there's when you look, the title has 3 parts. It has the front page. It has like a part. It has part A, part B, and part C.
Okay.
And part C is usually on the third page, where you'll see encumbrances. So if you charge your title, an interest will be noted on page 3. It will be written a charge for maybe for example, someone has taken a loan from Equity Bank. You'll see Equity Bank and the money that is borrowed. or any other bank.
Okay.
That is just but an example.
So
Okay.
at a
Yeah,
glance,
so
they can
at a
differentiate.
glance you can see that there's but there are other cases where I've seen the title is clean, but when you do a search you realize that it is encumbered.
Okay.
It is burdened with a loan.
So why
the
would
title.
it not be indicated in the title deed?
Maybe that was, I wouldn't call it, but it happened. I wouldn't explain why it isn't noted. But when you go to the land records at the lands office, you'll realize that that property is encumbered. But I've seen it in practice, so that's why we encourage people to do
Conduct
searches.
search.
Yes.
Someone is asking here, is it okay to ask to request before maybe purchasing to request for a map of
Although, just a minute, I was to answer the question on rates.
okay.
Rates.
Yes.
So now rates it's quite a tricky affair because at times you'll see for any title you can be required to pay rates, but what determines that is whether the title deed or that property is within a rating authority. A rating authority.
By that you mean?
A rating
A
authority?
rating authority, they are certain gazetted areas.
Okay.
If that property falls within that gazetted area, then it will be rateable. Like for example, in the Kamakis properties, you'll find that, of course, like nowadays, I can see there are street lightings.
Okay. In
You
the
see-
area.
Yeah, in the area.
Okay.
You see, those are things that are maybe brought about by the county government.
Okay.
So of course, because they are giving you it is assumed that they give you services, so you should pay for those services. So that is why you pay rates. So I want to make it clear, Bwana Basal,
Yes.
that you will find freehold titles and leasehold titles where you are required to pay rates.
Okay.
There's nothing wrong with it. Yeah, so rates, again, both rates and rents are paid annually. You pay them annually, so it's good to just check. If you have a title, maybe this is for our viewers at home, it's good that you check whether your title is within a rating authority.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful. I was asking,
Yes.
there's a client, viewer who is asking, is it important to get like a map of, a general map of the area
Yes, it's
before buying?
It's important because that is what will tell you exactly where your property is.
Okay.
And I'll give you a scenario where I had a client who bought a property somewhere, didn't look at the map, and for a long time he thought that his property was somewhere else, but that is not where it was. It was in another area,
In
but
another
still
location.
within.
That
Within the same area.
Yeah, within
Okay.
the same area.
Okay.
But it wasn't the one. And he kept on taking me on site, telling me this is my property. But to our surprise, it was still within the same area, but it wasn't the one.
Okay.
So you see, he bought something that, yeah, wasn't really what he was buying.
Wonderful. So I think thank you very much, guys, for tuning in. We are saying that this platform was created. We have created this platform so that we address some of the challenges that you guys go through before or even during the process of buying land. We want to make sure that at the end of the day, you get the best from this particular platform. Now, someone is asking here. I think you've tackled this one. If a Ugandan resident with Kenyan birth certificate can own land in Kenya.
Because a
But
Ugandan,
if does that make them a citizen? This is a Ugandan resident with a Kenyan birth certificate.
what that Ugandan maybe residents can do, if you see, if you have a birth certificate,
Yes.
then that means that you're a Kenyan by birth. So
Exactly.
you can apply for citizenship. Well, you can actually apply for a national ID.
Okay.
Yeah.
With
Once
the
you
birth
get the national
certificate.
ID, you're a Kenyan citizen.
That's
so you
true.
can own a
You can
property.
own a
Yes.
property. Okay.
Mine are just compliments from
Yes.
the viewers.
Okay.
Grace Chege is saying, I came across this very educative insights. Thank you, Wakili. Someone else is saying, thank you for the good show
Yes.
and keep coming back
Okay.
so that you can put us through this.
All right. I think I have a few more questions. Talk to us a little bit about. I think you mentioned the stamp duty,
Yes.
what it is, how it is paid, and such.
So, thank you. Stamp duty is a tax.
Okay.
And stamp duty is a tax. Of course, all taxes are paid to KRA. But the person with the responsibility of paying that stamp duty is the person who is purchasing that property. Get it?
Yes.
It's not the seller. It's the buyer who pays
The stamp duty.
But lucky enough for Fanaka clients, I see that you pay stamp duty for
Yes,
them.
on behalf of
Yeah.
the clients. Yes.
Yeah, but it's basically a tax. When you acquire a property, you have to pay some tax.
Okay.
And that tax is called stamp duty.
Okay.
But now on the other hand, if the seller, there's another tax that the seller pays.
Okay.
And that is the capital gains tax. The capital gains tax is because that person, from the time you bought to now the time that you're selling, there's some profit that you've had. So that profit is taxed because it's a gain on your end.
Okay.
Or it's something that you have earned, so the government has to tax it. Yeah.
Liz, I think this has been very informative. I didn't even know the last part that he has mentioned. I think this is something that we need to do again.
Yeah, sure,
Our viewers are already asking for you to come back,
Yeah,
so that
sure.
at least I feel like there are so many other questions that can be addressed, and I feel like we can do this again. Yes.
Definitely, I can come back because I think I like teaching people.
Yes.
Maybe some years in future
You will become a teacher.
a
You'll change
teacher.
professions.
I'll not switch. Yeah, but maybe I can have part-time classes and
titles.
teach because that is something that is in me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Finally, after buying a piece of land,
Yes.
how do I verify that I have made payments, everything is in order, the agreement is in order? How do I verify, and maybe I've gotten the title deed, how again do I verify that now, since I've paid money for this parcel, that this land is actually mine?
Once you finish paying, of course there are documents that the company or the person who is selling that property to you is supposed to give to you or your advocate.
Okay.
Number one, I want to count. Number one,
I hope guys are taking notes.
yeah, if it's a company, it's important that they give you a title deed. But that title deed will be in their name, the seller's name. The seller is again going to give you signed transfers. There is the land control board consent,
Okay.
but this is for freehold. In leasehold, we do not have a consent.
Okay.
Initially, it was a must for those who are buying leasehold properties to have what we call now the seller to furnish the buyer
Okay.
with the commissioner's consent, but nowadays it's no longer a requirement.
Okay.
Then of course the certificate of incorporation of the company, the PIN certificate of the company, IDs of the directors, KRA PIN certificates for the directors, a board resolution if it's a company.
Okay.
If it's an individual, I think it's necessary for there to be an affidavit
Okay.
of your what do we call it, a spousal consent,
Okay.
or an affidavit of marital status.
Okay.
For those of you who are single, and then the passport photos where rates are payable, of course the rates clearance certificate and the rent clearance certificate where applicable.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And now, just briefly, the transfer bit from now the guy who is selling and the one who has bought. Who is supposed to do it and how does it go?
Now, once you're handed it over, the documents are handed over to
The documents that you've
yes,
just mentioned.
because now the documents are being handed over by the seller to the buyer,
Okay.
and those transfers they have to be witnessed by an advocate.
Okay.
Meaning you can't start a process and end it without the process of buying land without involving an advocate.
Okay.
Once you hand over, me now being the person who is selling, once I hand over those documents to the buyer or the purchaser, they are supposed now to sign, of course, and after that, their responsibility now is on them to go and do the transfer, and that's why we said that stamp duty is paid by
But the one who
purchaser,
is
the one who is buying.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I forgot to mention something on the importance of the advocate.
Okay.
Even that ID, the PIN, all those documents have to be certified by an advocate.
Okay.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
This has been very informative, ladies and gentlemen. We want to say a huge thank you to, first of all, Wakili of the High Court. You've said it's not for the High Court,
Yes.
it's of the High Court.
Of the High
Mr. Lawrence Gashanja for
Yes.
gracing us with his presence
Asante
on such
sana.
short notice. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
And I think again we are going to have this session with you one more time, so
I'll
that
be delighted to join in.
exactly,
Yeah.
so that you address. I feel like there's so many other questions that we need to have addressed, and yeah, Liz, I think hata wewe umechukua vitu mbili tatu, hata kizungu hata kizungu
Nimeshika vitu mbili tatu
Almost sijatoka vile tumesema group
Yes.
of schools.
iko mahali umesema vendo.
Vendo.
Lakini group of schools pia sio mbaya, nimesoma kitu pia.
I think these are
And
sessions we should
that
be
one,
having.
especially that one for A. I had
Hey,
to say,
it is hey and eh. There's a difference.
Okay.
For those guys, you guys on the comments, you can actually tell us the difference and how it's pronounced.
Yes.
Is it you said hey?
Hair.
That is what I
Hair.
had.
You said hair.
Hair.
Yeah, I said. Let me not repeat it so that I don't embarrass myself.
You don't
in front
embarrass
of the
yourself.
camera.
Yeah, that's
But
wonderful.
the message is home.
Yeah, sure,
Absolutely.
true.
Yes.
Thank you very much for joining us today.
Yeah.
We are super grateful that you guys have tuned in. Please make sure you're here with us 2 p.m. on Friday as we address more of these issues related to you guys trying to invest in real estate and more specifically in land. It has been such a pleasure to host this show. Thank you very much. Have a good afternoon.
Asante sana.